What is up, guys? Welcome to a brand new video. So 7.3 has been out for a little while. So like every patch, we're going to take a look at the best champions you can play if you want to carry your games in solo or flex queue. We're getting super close to 500k subs, by the way, on the channel, which is nuts. But I need a few ideas for what you think would be a cool thing to give away or do for it. Like maybe just buy one of you guys a PS4 or an Xbox One and ship it out to you or something. I don't know. I just wanted to say thank you for watching and sticking with the channel. If you watch my videos a lot, by the way, and you haven't subbed yet, but you enjoy them, then you should definitely think about joining us. But anyway, let's get into the video. So we're going to start with the top lane. I think it's becoming much more of a carry role in 7.3. Like at least it seems like most top laners are having a bit more impact now. Fiora is going to be at second spot because she's becoming a lot more popular, but she's also super deadly. She can really hard carry a game. She's really good with like 2 or 3 items or more, especially with further stacking up the extra damage. Like Black Cleaver, for example, is more further damage because you're reducing their armor, and the Hydra is a reset for quicker further stacking. That is why she's so good at the moment. If she gets fed, she accelerates into that mid game faster and gets the items that she needs to carry. Basically, she spikes harder than any others, and she's very hard to stop with those items. Your healing from your ultimate plus her lifesteal is crazy, and then your extra mobility too, so it's like hard to catch her in the first place, but then it's actually hard to kill her anyway if you do. Her split pushing is really good, but she's also good 1v1, so she can kill the person trying to stop her, then she gets towers afterwards, and it can actually be a really easy game. You're slippery, you're decent in lane, you're amazing later, and gets better with more experience as well. The more games you play on her, the harder you're going to carry, and it's actually worth the time investment. The bad side is you don't have any crowd control really, though. You don't offer much for your team except the healing from your ultimate and also from your damage. So number 1 is going to be Quinn. She abuses lethality so bad. I think she was already decent anyway actually, but this style of game and the lethality buff just tipped her over the edge and made everyone realize how good she was. She's one of the best early game champions you can play, but she's also very solid throughout the rest of the game, which is pretty weird for her. That's not normally how Quinn's win rate looks like. In the lane phase, you're ranged, your marks make easy trades, you're pretty slippery, and you're very annoying to play against. After that though, you roam around with her bird and either burst her lane or go to another and surprise them. Basically, it's like a chaos style of game. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Flying that fast, faster with Ghost Blade, a shield with Edge of Night, and true damage with Dust Blade makes a disgusting one-shot combo, and is very hard to avoid that as well. The downside to Quinn, really the only downside, is if you get locked down by any crowd control or they just group as 5 the whole game, it is going to be harder to win. But to be honest, most games don't go that way anyway. Just a quick side note for Talon, I'm going to talk about him in the mid lane actually more, but he's still super good, similar to Quinn. The one to watch out for top is going to be Kled though. He shot up this patch and became a lot better. He could keep getting better overall as well with time. He's good in lane and works as a decent counter to melee champions especially. So let's move on to the jungle then. Number 2 is going to be Kha'Zix. He is just such a strong jungler at the moment. He does so much damage. He's great 1v1 with decent ganks, and he's still super strong late game. That is the first thing actually. He's decent at every single stage in the game, as you can gank, you can hunt the enemy jungler, but even if that all goes wrong, you're going to recover and be decent in team fights anyway. Lethality is just really good on him. It's really strong with his kit and makes him better earlier into the game at the moment. That's pretty scary when he's strong later as well anyway, as long as you can flank fights. You have good farming, which helps get items to carry later. It also means you can gank more, which you're just going to jump in. You slow with your rockets, your passive, your burst with your Q. You've always been a good carry jungler in my opinion, but lethality changes just made it way worse, to be honest. Like jumping in with a spell shield and stealth just makes it super hard to play against while he's killing you. The bad side is you have no real crowd control, and not necessarily you, but the meta top lane is more carried too as well, so we don't actually have a tank or a frontline as much or any sort of engage. The number 1, Graves, is by far the best jungler this patch in my opinion, by a long shot. Like he's played a ton and still has a really good win rate as well. So your farming is really good. That's one of the biggest things. You get more items and you scale with items very well. Your burst is insane once you have like 1 or maybe 2 items. With some lethality, it's like auto attack, your R, your E to cancel the knockback from your ultimate, and an auto to kill somebody. That's an insanely quick combo. It's not even using your Q either. That's where a lot of people mess this up a bit. They try and line up the perfect Q instant explosion against a wall for tons of damage, and yeah, sure, if you can get it out, that is great, but your autos are doing a crap ton. In my opinion, he's best at like 1 to 3 items really. Past that, he falls off a bit, not really because of him, but because of his general team combat. Actually, it just becomes a lot harder to catch people and burst them. You really need to focus on snowballing and being aggressive to kill people early. You don't really want to sit back and just farm. Also, actually, a very underrated and a big part of how this is working so well is because he's so good at taking towers with his passive shots. Like stand closer for more damage, and it absolutely nukes him down and gets a massive lead that way. The bad side is a team comp. Like normally it kind of sucks with Graves in really. He can snowball on one shot, but he has no engage, no crowd control at all, and you need that from your team really, otherwise you might find games quite hard to end. Quickly, a side note on Rengar, I would have put him in here on Italy, but he's legit banned in all of my games. Like I haven't really seen how these recent nerfs hit him, but he's still really strong. The one to watch out for is Nocturne. He's actually insanely good at the moment with triple lethality. He has a long range engage, legit a one shot, like a proper one shot, good clear, good 1v1, and amazing ganks. I honestly expect him to become a lot more popular over this patch, with Rengar and Kha'Zix kind of falling out of favor a little bit just because they're banned so much. Nocturne is a really good like third spot to pick up. We're just going to keep moving down the map honestly and go to the mid lane next. Number 2 is going to be Talon, who's a very good mid laner and top laner at the moment, but I think he might be a bit better mid in theory, and especially for lower ranks. The first reason is because he's able to roam a lot easier, both bot and top lane, but also into the enemy jungle and catch the enemy jungler. Jumping walls to get to another lane is pretty obvious, right? And that's what happens most of the time, but it's also about escaping after going super deep. To be honest, invading is not that hard on any high damage assassin. Like, you can do it on Zed and stuff like that, but teams collapse on you and then you're dead. But that doesn't happen with Talon. He's very similar to Quinn and just hard to play against. Like, there's not much you can do as an AD carry if a semi-fed or just a farm Talon keeps walking onto your lane and bursting you down. The thing with assassins are you're supposed to be strong early to mid game, but Talon gets to use that more and influence the entire map with his strength. I think that's why he's so good at the moment. The bad side is the game gets harder as it goes on, really. Early game roaming is where you're just able to abuse everybody, but once they're grouped, it's not as easy. It's still possible to catch people moving between lanes, but it does get harder. So number 1 is going to be Corki. I still think he's the best for me at carrying games. He's ranged, he's safe, he has high burst and poke too, which covers pretty much everything you want, I think. Your burst means that if someone gets close or you want to nuke someone down, you can do, especially mid game with Triforce and Sorcerer issues. You can easily ruin the enemy AD who doesn't have much magic resist yet. Your poke as well really hurts. Big ones do a serious amount of damage, especially early. They have a really insane AD ratio as well, so they do actually scale. You have decent wave clear, you can farm and stall the game out, but it's got to be the package that really makes him a solo queue god. You pick it up, you roam to another lane, normally bot lane honestly, and you cut off their escape with that rumble ultimate that you leave behind while leaping straight into the fight. It's so good at screwing other lanes over. The bad side is you're actually a mix of AD and magic, so that's good for mid game because I can't really build armor and magic resist quick enough to deal with you, but actually late game it becomes an issue. You're going to struggle to get through that armor and magic resist if there is a tank on the enemy team, so you're much better mid game in my opinion. The one to watch is going to be Anivia, who's been getting a lot better the last few patches even after the changes to her. She's actually pretty safe for a mage against these assassins, and she does pack a real punch if anybody gets close. The thing with assassins is they kind of have to get close, right? She's probably going to get a bit better with lethality nerfs to next patch. So let's move on to AD then. Number 2 is Varus. He's got disgusting poke damage actually with the lethality build, especially if you get ahead, and honestly you can just shut down an entire game. In lane you have decent poke, decent range, really good setup with your ultimate though for anything slightly aggressive like a support or a jungle gank. Like honestly it's so free. You press R, you root them in place while you combo onto them. Mid game fights you have decent damage with the poke side of things. That should give you like an advantage before you even get into it, but then your ultimate actually does way more work than you probably think. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it actually prevents a ton because all that time that wasted from the enemy team running away instead of fighting actually is going to add up. If you can get ahead, then you can spam your Q. It's such a brain dead playstyle. Like taking off half their health bar from massive range is ridiculous. Edge of Night even kind of helps with your lack of mobility, which was your biggest issue, but actually if you get behind, poke becomes way weaker. It's a lot harder to carry the game by yourself really. You still have your ultimate, but damage wise you will not be wrecking yourself that much. So number 1, MF is still going to be here for me by far honestly. Like it doesn't matter whether you get ahead or behind, either way Q and ultimate are still really gonna hurt. This is one of the biggest things. I think AD gets screwed in the meta quite a lot actually, but it doesn't matter if you get behind, you're still going to be able to carry. You only need like 2 damage items for that ultimate to really start to hurt. That is why Misfortune support works, right? You don't need that many items to make it really hurt, and having more than that just means you can probably ruin the entire enemy team. It's really hard to play against. If the team with Misfortune groups, then it's actually a real struggle to find a fight where she cannot just press R. Like naturally you're going to group a little bit, at least in a team fight. If only it was easy to punish her early, maybe that wouldn't matter as much, but she can fire the Qs off, and even if you're remotely close or your support is, then you're going to lose from super far away, taking like half your health off. The bad side is if you don't group, she really is not that good honestly. Also, if there's no crowd control in your team, it can be hard to find that perfect ultimate. It takes practice, it still works, but the habit is to only use it for a perfect ult, which can lose you the game actually. The one to watch out for is going to be Kog'Maw. So with Lulu with Kog'Maw is absolutely broken at the moment. It is so strong. You get 2 items, normally Wit's End and Rage Bait, then the combo can just carry the entire game. Even if you're like 0 and 10, 2 items and you stand a chance to wreck people. That's pretty ridiculous. Last up, we're going to look at support, and support is so versatile at the moment. It's really hard for these videos actually. You can play a lot of different stuff and do well, but for carrying games, I think Soraka is number 2. Soraka is a perfect anti-aggression champion, right? You carry because your AD is going to struggle to lose the lane phase, and you help team fights massively. It's really weird because you're not carrying with damage, but like your silence is much stronger than people think. You can really screw people over in ganks or 2v2 fights. Your heal in the lane phase is just an endless sustain if you can hit a few Qs as well. It's really easy to do well in the lane phase. Honestly, I think you're just the best defensive support who is still able to do stuff themselves in like kind of carry themselves. Like Janet is probably better overall, but relies on a team more. The bad side is you have no damage really, right? If your team is that terrible, then keeping them alive isn't really going to help a ton, but that's always the downside with the defensive support. So moving into number 1 then, Blitzcrank is the most aggressive support you can play. He's super good in this meta of immobile supports and AD carries. That's such easy targets. Your damage is insane. You can easily do like 60-70% of an AD carry's health bar if you full combos them, which is pretty ridiculous actually. I always get flamed for saying how good Blitz is on these videos, but honestly, like if you want to carry, then this guy does it better than everyone else if you can hit your hooks. The bad sides are really obvious though. Against tanks and stuff, hooking isn't the best idea obviously, and if you get behind or you miss your hooks, then you're pretty useless. Like it's high risk, but it's high reward. Side note on Zyra and Maus, actually, like they're still insanely good mages and hard carry games with their damage. The issue is sometimes they get pounded in the lane phase being low health, and if they don't get ahead, they don't have damage and they can't carry. The one to watch for me is Sona. So she's been getting a lot better recently, a good mix of carry and supporty. Like she has a spam heal, but also a big ultimate to combo things and good poke, especially in the early lane phase. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you let me know in the comments what you want to do for 500k. Subscribe if you haven't already, but for now, let's go to the robots.